Introducing the starting lineup for your Los Angeles Lakers. At center, 6'11", number 14, Marc Gasol.
One of the longest standing conversations in sports video games has been how does these companies continue to get away with charging full price every year for mostly a copy and paste version of last year's game that barely improves over what we already got. And why not just have a game that can be updated for a few years, then a huge revamp comes out and they do it all over again? Well, outsiders looking into the sports genre often bring this argument up way too often. And for someone who has supported multiple sport franchises throughout the years, but specifically 2K, since the original 2K on the Dreamcast, I have never missed an entry. I can tell you that folks over at 2K Games and Visual Concepts 95% of the time have always given us 2K players a reason to buy the new version of the game. Well, unfortunately, that faith and that percentage has dropped this year for me. Today, we are talking about the new 2K game NBA 2K22 on the Nintendo Switch. This version is what 2K Games is dubbing the current gen version. And wow, do I feel that in my 2K soul. As always, if this review influences your purchase or gives you some additional sway in whether to pick up this year's version of Simulation Basketball, do me a huge favor and subscribe and like the video. Also, comment down below anything else you want to know about the game that I may have missed or not covered in today's review. But with that out the way, let's talk basketball and let's chat about whether NBA 2K22 is a day one pickup or something that you should wait for it to drop in price, like when 2K21 dropped to $5 recently on the Nintendo eShop. First off, let's jump and talk about some reasons why NBA 2K22 might be a solid pickup for you, and what it's doing right, because today's review really isn't all that bad. So for current gen version of the game, the new things that have been added to this year's game is the cruise ship. Now, the cruise ship is the new My Neighborhood, and honestly, I really liked it. It has a solid design, cool playground feel, and when you're playing on the park, there's a really cool vista and multiple levels to this thing, and there are really a lot of things to do. The one thing you'll notice is it's really just a reskin of what we've been getting over the past few years in 2K, but it's mostly been that way for quite some time. A new lick of paint, some new venues, and a cool place to run around with other real players around the world. Overall, I would say that this is a solid experience and right within expectations. I really give this one a win to the 2K team. The next thing is some newer animations that were added. Every year, the team over at 2K does a decent job of adding new animations, especially for up-and-coming players that are new to the league every year. This expansion is always nice to see, and especially nicer to see when you can add them to your own My Player. Now, we also got some returning but new commentary as well. This is always something that has really immersed me personally in the overall experience. There's new dialogue, and what Kenny the Jet and others have to say around this year's basketball lineup and players kind of blew away my expectations a little bit. Now, as you move through the game in areas like My Player, there's voice acting, of course, and it's all mostly good. Now, we'll talk about a little bit of my other thoughts a little bit later in the video. But again, I just want to say it's mostly good, and it fits right in with the past years of the game. So if you had no complaints before, then you'll have no complaints now, and you'll be pretty happy. Lastly, for what the game does right, it still feels good. It's a solid feeling game of basketball, and it fits right within my expectations. Plays still feel smooth, it still looks pretty good, and if you're trying to wet your basketball whistle, well, there really isn't another game out there that does what 2K does in the basketball world. And even if they were to try and come at 2K, well, this one just kind of feels right to be able to jump in, pick up, and play, and enjoy being able to even master the game of simulation basketball. If you liked it before, you're going to like it again. So, like everything in the world, there's always a give and take. Now, I've given you guys some of what the good was about this year's game, but let's talk about the not so good. So, what I didn't like or what I was disappointed in this year, well, the list is a little bit longer than what was good. So, strap in, folks. Let's go. All right, so let me start here with the biggest L that I took jumping into 2K this year. That is my player. So I know a lot of y'all jump into a variety of different modes. Hit up the park with friends, go online and do ranks, do my team, and a variety of other modes and things. But for me, my player is the one thing I look forward to each and every year. Creating my own player, taking him through the ranks, enjoying that cheesy but sometimes impressive heartfelt story, and running back a few seasons as I build a championship team around me, and then repeat it. Well, in this year, I can't say that none of that isn't here, but what isn't here, y'all, is heart. Right out the gate, this only feels like a copy and paste from last year. It feels like someone who was writing a paper based on a Wikipedia paper and took away most of what made that paper good and only copied the worst. This game starts with calling you, for one, MP, which it just means my player. By far the worst and most annoying nickname in 2K history. Then it takes you through college, then through the draft, and all of the normalcies that we have been accustomed to throughout the years. But guys, the story is pretty much non-existent. This is by far the most generic my player mode I have ever experienced. And on top of it all, your player is a content creator who had somewhat of like a YouTube channel, and he got famous through basically making other really good ball players look silly and posting it on the internet. Now, this guy, he's made it big in basketball. He's made his way through the league, and really, that's kind of all that you get as far as getting that camaraderie with your player. I just really feel like this was lazy and quick writing, and obviously was not the focus, which is really disappointing for me, because even during their first 2K TV presentation, when asked what people were most excited for this year, 87% of their own fan base said that my player was the thing that they were most excited about. And dang, all these players are gonna be disappointed. Honestly, I play 2K and my player for roughly about 60 to 80 hours every year. Then I go off and do some My League. Then I really put the game down after that and only pick it up when my boys come over or kind of like when I'm having get-togethers and just want to throw a game on the TV. Typically after, it just kind of finds its way to the shelf, and then I move on to the next year's version of basketball. Well, I can honestly say that 2K22 is going to find itself on the shelf a lot quicker than any other version of 2K before. Alright, so I talked about my personal biggest disappointment, but let's talk about the rest. The shot meter aesthetically has changed, but functionality-wise, it's basically the same as last year. So love or hate last year's shot meter, it's back, just looks a little bit different. Timing and all too is roughly the same. So if you biffed shots last year, well then this year, if you was Curry last year, you're gonna be Curry this year out the gate too. So be ready to lace up again. If you're good, jumping in now to a quick play, if you're jumping into a quick play game, right out of the gate and right out of boot up, nothing really felt new. It basically feels like a continuation of last year's entry. Now there's some new angles, some new shots, some new player scenes, there's the AT&T replays, and some new commentary like I said before. But it's all done with a lot of old commentary, a lot of the same camera angles. And on the Nintendo Switch, it's the same 30 frames per second that we've gotten since the game has come over to the Switch. I still don't quite understand how during the age of 360 or PlayStation 3 or even older generations, they were able to push out 60 frames per second, but the Switch is stuck on that 30 frames. And after playing last year's current gen version on my PlayStation 4, or now even last year's version on my PlayStation 5, which was the next gen version, this honestly just feels rough, slow, and laggy. It feels like I need to turn my game speed up. That's how bad it feels. Loading times are also worse this year than last year. I always gauge how much time I have before that next thing loads that I'm getting into, and I ask myself the question, do I have enough time to log into Twitter? Well, the answer this year is yes. I even have time to scroll through what's happening in my today's feed, and there's just too much time for loading. Hopefully, it gets fixed. My team is also back with challenges and things to do, but personally, this card collecting aspect of 2K, which I know is the biggest moneymaker for them, last year I praised it. I said this mode, although still not for me, I still could really feel the passion and quality that they put into this section of the game. They know that this is where players will go in, spend a lot of time, and spend a lot of money. Well, virtually it's the same as last year, so it has new challenges, it has new card packs, and it does have new things to do, but my praise of this mode has been diminished as it's still a quality product. It just doesn't feel like any new life was breathed into it. Just feels like more of the same. My last couple of notes here are WNBA is back. If you liked it, you liked it. It's here. It's back. You get more of it. Congrats to the WNBA for making it. They even got someone on the cover. That's real cool. Not for me, but I get it. If you liked it, it's here. Otherwise, other things, make sure to adjust your sound. For some reason, guys, the default sounds have the commentators sounding like whispers and the crowd sounding like they in your house. Voice acting goes along with sound. Like I said earlier in the review, it's good, but it's extremely cheesy. So throughout your My Player experience, you're going to have that cheesiness sprinkled all over it. So just know that if you've been okay with it before, it's more of the same. Now the commentators never disappoint. The only disappointment I personally had was the new dialogue, or you could say the lack thereof, or the rarity of hearing new dialogue. It seems to be that there's more reused lines and they're kind of all over the place. So that's just one thing to know. Speaking about commentators, there still isn't any during your My Team experience. So just kind of have that in mind that you're going to be playing in silence. So make sure you have music or a podcast playing on your phone or Discord or somewhere else because it's going to be pretty quiet. And overall, I just kind of felt that as a boring experience. Again, nothing new, just I wish that they would have added some kind of like street commentator, or even if it wasn't Kenny or anybody else, I wish they would have just added a little bit more here. Like, give me somebody calling the shots as we do these challenges and stuff. Lastly, the game broke for me, and I mean it broke a lot. This year, I really hope it can be fixed with like patches, but there was constant messages of not being able to connect to the server, and even moments like when I was trying to get into a rec game more than once that I couldn't back out. I was just stuck on finding players. And when I tried to back out, it just was frozen with the music playing. I literally had to close my software. This was just a poor experience, as I don't know if the rec is just broken or if it was something that is just constantly happening. Because like I said, there's other places in the game to where I didn't have to completely back out of my game, but I would get constant errors saying that it disconnected from the server. And guys, I got good internet. To wrap it up, you can really feel that the 2K team put all their eggs in the next-gen basket, and in the current gen, especially on the Switch, this year's version of Simulation Basketball is kind of soulless, and even heartless, I would say. And it seems like the intern team copied last year's game, sprinkled some new assets on top, and said, good to go, boss. In my opinion, this game is not worth your money. On the Switch, at least not day one, I would say wait for a sale during the holidays, update your current roster in 2K21, or heck, even 2K20, and write it out until this drops to $40, $30, or even $5. I can say I do not recommend this year of NBA 2K. I don't slap scores on games. I just let you know if you want to buy or skip this one, or wait for like a sale. Honestly, that's what you need to do on this one. Skip or wait for a sale. Thanks for watching my review of NBA 2K22. Hopefully you're able to take away something from this review, and as always, good luck to all the My Players out there. And if you bought this year's game on Next Gen, let me know your thoughts below. And even if you didn't, let me know if you're buying this one. Alright, we'll catch you on the next one. Peace out, friends.